Welcome to Post Apocalyptic Show. This is Rob.
This is John.
And August 1980.
August 1980, towards the end of summer movies. I guess that's what it is.
And August was a dead zone. Trying to pick a movie. The two biggest releases, Xanadu and Smokey and the Bandit 2. That was August. And those movies, like Xanadu, is only a hit now, or probably within the last 10 years. People watch it for the camp value of it. And Smokey and the Bandit 2, I mean, I'd watch it.
And Smokey and the Bandit, I've seen it many times. I haven't seen it in the theater, honestly, but I saw it many times on cable.
Yeah.
It's that kind of movie.
It's fine, but the fact that there was that many movies, I think there was like 10 movies released, only 2 of note. Everything else I'd never heard of. There was The Kidnapping of the President.
Yeah.
The one we're going to be watching, and then The Final Countdown.
Yeah.
But that was it, and those are ones I looked at going, well, those have stars in it. But I picked Those Lips, Those Eyes.
What a title. Those Lips, Those Eyes.
And I picked it for you. It's a theater movie. It's a movie about theater.
I got a feeling it's a movie about theater, but it's like theater is definitely going to be in the background.
Just like way over there.
It's just like, I don't, yeah, it's...
Yeah. It's not based on a theatrical play or anything. It's a movie set in the 50s about a theater. I don't know.
All right.
All I know is it's got Frank Langella.
Frank Langella is going to bring it like he always does.
And according to the trailer, Animal House's Thomas Hulce. That was my favorite because I was like, all right, Animal House. And it was Thomas Hulce, not Tom Hulce.
Tom Hulce.
Who would have then been Amadeus just a few later.
Absolutely. That's what...
This is basically his Cop on Stand movie before he became Amadeus.
This is what Milos Forman was like. All right, I see. I saw that's my Milos Forman.
Yeah.
those eyes. I loved it.
Once I saw that, Amadeus. That was it. All right, so join us for Those Lips, Those Eyes.
Oh, can't wait.
August 1980. End of summer.
Yeah, well, we'll see how they end it.
She'll sit there and just look out. It's like, man, living the dream. That Hollywood dream.
Oh, yeah.
The High West Hollywood dream. Oh, John. August. 1980. High West.
Good year.
It's getting better. I know we say that every time, but it is truly getting better.
It probably is, you know.
There's something about it. All right. So we're going to vault it. Thank you for watching.
That was awesome.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
no reason to say anything else.
Those Lips, Those Eyes.
Those titles. It's just like, what...
I don't. We'll have to when we do a wrap up of the thing, like one of our awards is like worst title. They're all terrible. All right, so directed by Michael Pressman, who did Bad News Bears 2, Some Kind of Hero, and Dr. Detroit. A cavalcade of interesting movies.
I didn't see any of those movies in this one, but yeah.
Oh, really? You didn't see Some Kind of Hero or Dr. Detroit?
Oh, I've seen them many times. I didn't see any of those movies in it. Like. Oh. I was watching the movie going...
in this one, okay.
Oh, okay, that's it. Like...
Yeah.
The style was kind of interesting.
Yeah. Written by David Shaber, Nighthawk and the Warriors.
The Warriors.
Classic.
It's a classic movie.
It's, of course, starring a young, hairy Frank Langella and Tom Hulce.
Tom Hulce.
Animal House Tom... I don't even know. It's like I want to go through what our 5 questions are, but I don't know. I can't wrap my head around this movie.
Yeah.
It is a shrug towards camera.
Pretty much.
That's the movie. Not bad by any means. It's watchable.
It's watchable, but for me it was like... This may sound weird, but like an elusive kid or dog that you're trying to catch. It's like... And he just, like, it just keeps...
Right.
There were certain moments where I was, like, trying to... Okay, I think I know where this is going. And then there'd be some line or non sequitur, and then we'd go to the next scene, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to feel about this.
Like, was that connecting to something else better and you just cut it for time?
Yeah.
But I guess we should say, because the title does not say anything. It's the early 50s. An Ohio boy, Artie, his name was Artie? It was just called him Shoemaker. Skipped school to work behind the scenes of a touring stock theatrical company. Harry Crystal, which I guess was his name in the thing.
Frank Langella.
Langella.
Stage name.
Takes him under his wing and shows him, the beautiful chorus girls, which is in here, which has nothing to do with anything. Basically, it's just a summer stock. It's a theater group, and there's the fish out of water. That's Shoemaker.
Yeah. And was there something in there about him learning to be like, or Langella taking, or Krebs, or whatever his name is, taking him under his wing?
Yeah, and at his job, Artie is nearly fired until the star of the show, Harry Crystal, takes a liking to him and takes the kid under his wing. Artie becomes smitten with one of the attractive chorus girls from the show, Ramona, a worldly young woman who provides his sexual initiation. Yeah. But soon the show must move on to another town, leaving Artie alone with his dreams. That isn't... that last bit has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
More of a question, did this movie have to be set in 1950?
Okay, so there were...
John's thoughts?
No, there were just times where I didn't know where we were in time. Mm-hmm. So, and there'd be that one sort of touch, the kid who was good.
Yeah.
The brother.
That we just threw away after Act 1.
After Act 1, he disappeared, as kids do. And he was drinking a glass of milk and had some chocolate cake. And the milk was in a glass bottle. Oh. And I was just like, 50s.
Yeah.
But, and then, you have Tom Hulce dressed like a person in the 50s. Yeah. But I don't know that I really got 50s.
I mean, it looked like the 50s.
It did, but like, we're also in the theater, so these sets, and it was like... It was kind of strange. Did it have to be set in the 50s? Absolutely not. There's nothing about the 50s that
didn't drive the story. I would have almost liked it more contemporary, because I think a kid of, at the time would have been late 70s, or like 79 or whatever. I don't know. There just didn't feel like it needed to be set in the 50s at all. I think it would have done itself more to be contemporary.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
And I think maybe, we get the story throughout a little more that, Harry wants to get back to Broadway. But we never knew that he was a Broadway star. There's no, with all the people that don't like him, it's not like, the fallen star.
Yeah.
That should have played out a little more, that he had his run, maybe something happened, he's doing summer stock, and he's trying to get back to the big game.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what they
allude
to, but not, very explicitly. I mean, someone sort of says it like he might be back on the. I think he was not very good, but the director.
Oh yeah.
Sperm.
Yeah. They could call him in this Sherm or something like that.
Sherman or whatever it was. He's like, he might make back to the Great White Way. We'll just wait. And it's like, he's in the minor leagues now. He'll be called back up to the majors.
Yeah.
So to speak. But to go from Broadway to summer stock, it's like where actors usually get their start. I don't know. Yeah, maybe kind of funny or whatever, but he seemed to own the stage, when he was there. So it wasn't that he was bad. I guess he just, there were no roles for him, or his agent or whatever wasn't working hard enough for him. But, it just, his motivation, if it was like, I gotta get back to Broadway.
Yeah.
You saw that every now and then, but really...
He was okay.
He was kind of okay.
A good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think motivations were weird. And even if, like, when they go back, when Shoemaker goes back with the dancer, Ramona, back to Harry's place, even if there was an article about something of him, his attitude, his, you know, I mean, it's set in 50, so you wouldn't want to do drugs or alcohol or something, but even if it was just like, or maybe even if the article is called the Fall of the Big Bright Star or something, or then, oh, okay, something happened, you know.
Right.
But it was just sort of like you said, he's owning it. Like, it's almost like he's been working on Summer Stock for so long, he's just waiting for that moment for someone to see him, you know.
Right. I mean, he that thing is not looming in the background. That's sort of like, okay, Broadway, you missed it, you missed the window, or, you know, God, I gotta get back to Broadway. This, you know, Summer Stock is, you know, I'm over it. You know, I need to get back. You know, that sort of main goal. You know, but it was just like, hey, I'm here with the. Every now and then he talked to the ladies, but not really. Yeah. He was really his own. He did his own thing, you know. Yeah. Sometimes I don't know what that was. I didn't know what was in his head.
Sometimes his eyes.
Yeah, his eyes. He would like murder you, and he would the next second, you know, he'd put his arm around you, and it's like I just didn't quite.
Because he wasn't a ladies' man. He wasn't like pretending like he was bigger than he was. Like, he was the star, but it wasn't like.
Yeah. He was just like, that's what I do every now and then. He'd be like, oh, I want to get to Broadway, but.
Yeah, it wasn't like that was his motivation.
No.
Like, and they showed enough of the plays, which, I mean, I will commend the David Shaber. Sorry, I'm butchering it. Like, to write a movie, then invent plays, like to write musical, like even though they're throwaway stuff, it like they all felt like real musicals or real plays or whatever.
No, absolutely. I mean
that's impressive.
When you see that in, like, say, you know, Wes Anderson will do that. You know, he'll make a play or opera or whatever within the movie. But to do that with Summer Stock, which is, you know, just reusing sets and doing all that, like, to write all those different plays and have them be something where you're like, oh, that's like a thing, you know.
And they showed just enough of it to make it seem like part of a song, and like everything looked cohesive. And you're like, oh, this looks legit.
No, absolutely. And so that aspect of it, you know, I thought they pulled off, you know, really well. So I felt like the setting was great, and like we were sort of dropped into that world, and that was organic. It's just sort of like the players within it.
No.
I just didn't quite know what was going on, from Harry to the grandpa to, you know, to Jerry Stiller in a robe again.
That's like the highlight. I mean, it's not like he didn't shine or anything, but just seeing him look like how he looked, either on King of Queens or Seinfeld, where it's like, oh, we see why you get cast in this role. He's just in a robe, you know?
Right. Yeah, I mean, actually, he may have been the most solid character in that, you know, who's his dad, and he had his you know, you want to look out for his son, and he was the, you know, the patriarch and that kind of stuff. But I mean, it wasn't a huge role.
A small role.
It wasn't a huge role, but it's Jerry Stiller, so he makes the most out of it. You know, Ramona, I didn't know what was going on with her. You know, that awkward scene in the car.
All of it was just,
and then I just don't know where she was, what her motivation was with him.
Yeah, because it wasn't like she was like, oh, maybe I'll get to Broadway, so I'm going to work my way into it. It was just sort of like, and honestly, she kind of looked like for the other girl, so half the time when he was talking to her, I'm like, oh, he's hitting on someone else. Like, oh, that's the same girl.
I thought the same thing, you know? I mean, yes, everybody's, most of the time, dressed the same. But yeah, I was just like, which one?
Yeah, her motivation then at the end, it's like, I'm married. Like, that was supposed to be this like big reveal, which it was, but it was also felt no payoff to it. I'm married. Okay. Like us as an audience, it wasn't like, oh shit. It was more of like, all right.
Right. I mean, I think it was a big reveal, and the moment was perfect. However, there was no setup.
Yeah.
So it was a payoff to something that, yeah, he liked her. He was going to move to New York, and, you know, she's like, I'm married. But if you really go back, if you really want to watch the movie again, if you want to go back, there are no tells about that. And so it is just, like you said, it's like a throwaway because it's like, oh, I'm married. But then why...
Yeah, the way she was acting with him as if, like, it was her first time.
Yeah.
Almost. And then it's like, why? Like, what's your goal? What's your end goal sleeping with Shoemaker?
Right. Exactly. And so it's like, I'm married. But you sort of acted very weird. You know, like it was your first time. Like you were, you know, wanting to run off with him. And then he's pouring his heart out. He's telling you he loves you in 2 days or whatever. And... then you go, oh, it won't work, I'm married. I got a job on Broadway.
Yeah.
And not only am I married, but I was just fooling around with the old guy.
Agent what is happening?
Or something. It's like, I mean...
Like, that didn't have to be a reveal. Like, it could have just been, look, I don't like you that way. I mean,
that would actually be a lot better if she said that, because it's like, then... it could be, hey, I'm going off to Broadway. I'm going to be a star.
Yeah.
I'm going to meet a Broadway actor, or I'm going to meet someone great there. I've just met
the prop guy.
I just met the agent. Yeah. So it's only uphill from now. Mm-hmm. So why am I going to be with a prop guy?
Yeah.
I don't like you that much. I'm married.
It was like an easy cheat in writing, almost. Like, it was just like, I'm married, in the scene.
Yeah.
You know, and I wonder, too, because thinking about the 50s thing, is I wonder if that was, there's almost zero information on this movie. Like, I mean, in between IMDb and, like Wikipedia. This is just a movie it's just a movie. It's out there. It's in a vault. You know, or, like, it's just on a shelf somewhere, and even though it has some actors in it, there's nothing interesting about this movie that people have written trivia about. But I just wonder if, because of like American Graffiti and what was it? Like some of the other movies in the late 70s that always took place in the 50s, this, you know, or even Happy Days or something that was like, you know, the glory days of the 50s. So I just wonder if they wrote it and went, set this in the 50s. You know, not like to cash out on the, you know, the 50s craze. It just sort of made it seem like it was something else than it needed to be, even though that had nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, I'm sure it was something like that, you know, to give it, I don't know, a certain innocence, and maybe having to do with the Tom Hulce character and giving his sort of character that sort of 1950s wide-eyed, sort of innocent, boy coming of age, so to speak. That's the only other. He's the only person who I felt was really in that world.
Yeah, no, he was bringing it.
Yeah, everyone else, like, so when you do a show or movie about the 50s, there's not only, a lot of people don't get right. There's not only the setting and the cars and all that. It's like, it's the way people talk is different. The cadence is different. Here, the reason why I was thrown off was because, like, Frank Langella, he sounded like he was in the 70s or whatever. Yeah. And so a lot of people sort of spoke like that.
Yeah.
You know, the women would have spoken differently. Well, she was closer. But it was just like, I don't feel like you guys are sort of, as far as voice and cadence, I felt like it just wasn't a 50s type of feel. So that's what sort of threw me off.
Right.
You know, and as far as does the 50s have anything to do, it's like when you set something, you know, I think in film school it was just like big, like on, set it in the 50s, set it in this, set it in that. Because I was like, oh, it's cool. But I was like, well, why is it set in the 50s?
Yeah.
Is there a reason? And it was like, well, no, I just think it's cool. It's like, well, it's not really a great reason. Like, it'd be better if the 50s informed, you know, the story and the motivations of these characters.
Yeah.
And it's like you say, like your question, you know, does this have to be set in the 50s? And it absolutely didn't. And it probably would have benefited from being set like in the 70s. Because all this stuff could have happened in the 70s, but it probably would have been, you know, the characters would have been a little different and a lot better. I think the story would have been better.
I think it would have been a little funnier too. It was just like all the stagehands, all like the jerks just being more hippies.
Yeah.
Or like even just like stoners or something. And I think that would have just maybe given it a little something. It'd be one thing if it was like, oh, summer stock was only big in the 50s and then went away. Okay, so we have to tell the story at this aspect or something. But like you said, it was more of a device. It's like, it's going to be the 50s. Okay.
Yeah, it's just like, and in the late 70s, 80s, if you're going to put it in the 50s, probably has to be something about the 50s that entices you to watch that movie.
Yeah.
The Happy Days. Mm. The 50s, it's all about, you know, certain aspects of that, you know, that time period in Americana and all of that.
Right.
That draws you to it, you know. For this, it's like, are you going to go to the theater and go, oh, this is set in the 50s. Cool. And then you watch it and you go, well, this didn't really...
Yeah.
Like, I'm not jonesing for a 50s movie, but if it has something about it, you know, like, you know, 4 years later, you know, Back to the Future comes out.
Yeah.
And a large part of that movie is set in the 50s. But there's a lot of 50s stuff that really entices about the movie. I mean, along with other stuff.
And it's the motivation of the movie to be there. You know?
Exactly. So, and to sort of juxtapose 50s versus 80s as well. Not to say that really has to be it here, but, you know, I don't see any of this not happening in the 70s.
Yeah.
So if I'm like a producer or a studio and having to, you know, pay for a period piece or a piece that's could be set today, which would be cheaper.
And that's the only reason why I just think that maybe they went, look, we'll pony up the money if you set it in the 50s. Because look at American Graffiti, look at Happy Day. I mean, that would be literally the only reason why. Yeah. Because they're like, oh, it's contemporary. I don't care about what today's kids are doing. You know, that would. I mean, like I said, there's zero information I would like to actually know. Like if that was like he wrote a draft and was like, no, put it in the 50s.
But you're right. I mean, with Happy Days and American Graffiti, you could, which, you know, big successes. Yeah. So you definitely would be more inclined to pony up for that because of those. Yeah. But is that the writer doing that? Is that the studio saying, hey, why don't you set this in the 50s? Or some producer? Yeah. I don't know.
For some reason, I couldn't get it out of my head watching this one. I was like, why is this set in the 50s? There's just no reason for this to be set here. I don't know why like that hung up. Maybe because it was just the movie itself. Yeah. Like it wasn't like I was bored or anything, but the whole time it's like, there has to be a reason why this is set in the 50s. And it's not like it was cheaper. It's like, oh, you have to rent cars, wardrobes. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, it's not like, oh, it's cheap. No, it's not. It's more money. Unless they found that location and went, man, we have a lot of old-timey costumes. It's the 50s, you know.
That could be it, too. And it was largely in that one sort of area, too. Yeah. But, you know, just your question about, well, did it need to be set in the 50s? No. There's nothing about it that... I didn't even realize we were in the 50s half the time anyway, so...
Yeah, because once you were in the summer stock set...
Yeah, because he's just putting on costumes. I mean...
And then most everyone either had like a blue, like overalls almost to show that they were part of the crew.
Yeah.
then at that point, you know, it wasn't until the very end when they're like, hey, we're going to go get a drink. And then everyone's like, oh, why are they in a period costume? Oh, right. It takes place in the 50s.
Right, exactly. When we saw the Jerry Stiller's truck, and he was a junk man, I was just like, is Tom Hulce supposed to be Lamont? And like, it's like,
he just starts thinking stuff. I would have recommended this movie.
Right.
Did they watch Sanford and Son and went, what if we did that?
Right, exactly.
That was the other note. Set in the 50s, and we've been watching Sanford and Son. This show is amazing.
I wouldn't be surprised because this movie was all over the place. So it probably was a little bit of Sanford and Son, Happy Days, American, just a little bit of everything.
And I'm like, the one thing I felt like it was towing the line on was that it almost wanted to be like a pre-80s, I mean, we're in the 80s, but like a pre-80s sort of slapsticky. Like, it almost wanted to go to that route because the way they were doing some pranks on the cast, then it was about, oh, you can sleep with any of the girls. So it's like, oh, okay, so this is the movie we're doing. But it just would do it just a little bit. So it needed to lean either towards this just being sort of a R-rated sort of comedy drama, people piece, just like, oh, this is just this, or just to that line of like, the wacky, because that's why I almost wonder if it was written for like, oh no, it's like Meatballs, which didn't exist. Like, it's Meatballs for, oh no, maybe Meatballs, yeah. But like Summer Stock. There's going to be like these kids, or even Caddyshack or something. It's like, things kind of go wrong, and there's boobs and stuff like that. But it sort of seemed like it was trying to find what it was,
Yeah, and I think that's sort of, with the movies that we've watched so far, that's sort of what everyone's doing, is trying to find their footing, and trying to find like what they're going to be. You're right. That sort of slapsticky prank thing that happened with the wine or whatever, and the screwing the or unscrewing the bolts or whatever. It's just, I was like, okay, I'm getting this 80s screwball comedy vibe, and then we go back to Langella just murdering people with his eyes. It did have, it was, that's,
and it could have been a better film if it was either. Like, if they stuck straight to just the comedy and even sort of the same storyline of him wanting to go to Broadway, or made it more, character piece, a little more serious, with maybe some jokes here and there, just with the cat. I think it could have lent itself to being a little better. Because I think either or, like, the in-between didn't quite, gel it. So
I mean, and I think that's what, as we get further into the decade, I think that's what 80s movies sort of do really well.
Yeah.
This one, tries to be, everything is just sort of like the chicken popping out of the egg, just trying to like find something, but eventually, they sort of hit their stride. But it's just, it's just kind of lost when you have that prank, and then it's like, oh, don't worry about it, and it was just rolled off his shoulder. It was just like, okay, well, that's just the theater. It's all right.
It's like, if the crew doesn't want to kill you, it's another day, and you're like, oh, okay, so this is kind of what their relationship's going to be, and it's like, oh, we're not going to do that again for a while. Then it happens again, and you're just like, oh yeah, that thing they were doing.
Yeah, and then it doesn't happen again, and you're like, okay. And then at the end, we get thrown with a misdirect. Oh, that's Bellinger or whatever. He's always, And it's like, oh, okay. Well, then did you prank, like you said, did you prank? No.
Because it really felt like, because I kind of thought that at first when they called, because he was always waiting at the bar for the call. Then the car comes to his room, and he's like, I'll tell him. And then, that guy leans in, oh, that Bellinger. And you're like, oh, it's a prank. He's got to tell Harry about it. Then he shows up, and you're like, oh, all right, I guess. I've either seen too many movies that I feel like I know what's going to happen, or they just kind of knew. I don't know. It was weird.
Did they want us to think that, oh, it's going to be a prank, and then when he shows up, we go, oh, he showed up. But then But there wasn't a prank. He did call. So then what was he saying?
Yeah, and it's like, because it seems like he's always, because that one scene in the bar, the blonde guy, which we didn't know anyone's name. We knew like 3 names.
Yeah, exactly. The blonde guy. That's what he was.
He was like always waiting for that call. So it's like,
Yeah.
Or he's just been around Harry so much that this is sort of typical Harry stuff, but I don't know. Like, you knew no names. And actually, Ramona, that's actually the only thing I remember that is because I read it.
Yeah, I didn't remember Ramona either. They may have said it once.
Yeah, and it was like Harry and Shoemaker. Like, reading that, it was Artie. It's like...
Yeah, nobody called him Artie. Maybe Mom or something, but that's it.
And then, it's a bummer because, I mean, as always, it's like, I'm always happy to see anything, and it was, it was fun mostly to see a young Frank Langella.
Yes. With hair. I've never seen him with hair.
Shirt always open. It was like, this is amazing. Tom Hulce looked the same from Animal House to, like, Parenthood. So he was sort of timeless in age.
Yeah. Frank Langella, I mean, unless I'm just always want to see him as the heavy, the villain, like to see him even be charming or not the villain, it was just like, oh, okay, so he can do it. But when is he murdering? Like, and you see his eyes, you're like, okay.
Yeah, because he starts talking to someone and he goes right in and was like, okay, now this movie's going to get interesting. Oh, no, that's just who he is.
Yeah, because if I'm casting a villain and I'm looking for, and I'm watching this movie, there are many moments in here where I'm like, that's him.
Yeah, you definitely see like these, like, because he gave these great speeches that were intense and then with no smile, and you're just like, you see that reel and you're like, I'm getting that guy.
Yeah, because he's good at it, like scaring the living shit out of you, like in a heartbeat, and then he'll go back and be, happy-go-lucky. Yeah, it's like who is this guy? I don't know. Does he really care about Broadway? I don't know.
Yeah, and then the weirdest though is like you look at this with Tom Hulce and it's like Amadeus. Like I don't even know how you.
I don't.
Once again, he was great in Amadeus, but it's just like you don't like you watch Animal House and then you watch this and it was just sort of like, give that guy a lead.
Yeah, Amadeus, I don't know how that casting process went, but to have Tom Hulce in that role for many reasons, I'm sure saw something. Yeah, but, and it's there, and he's a really good actor.
Oh yeah, no, I mean I'm not discounting. Like I think his performance in this movie was really good. Like he played that wide eye.
Absolutely.
Like, oh my God, I'm so amazed about summer stock.
No, he's great.
But it was just sort of like to think it's it's like Craig T. Nelson 2 years later being the lead in a movie where you're like, you were a cop on stand. Whereas like at least with Tom Hulce is like a co-lead. You can see it's like, oh wow, he has something. But to go to Amadeus,
Right, and I think back in these days, you do have a lot of really talented people in smaller roles. Was Harrison Ford in
he was
American Graffiti?
He was like I thought he was in another movie too where he played the bellboy or something.
No, I'm thinking of that movie.
What
movie was that?
But he's also in American Graffiti for like, he pulls up in the car, hey kid, and then just drives off or something like that. But yeah, there's a movie where he's like the bellboy or something. But even then, when you see that clip, you're like, it's Harrison Ford.
Right. So, Clint Eastwood had a big deal with, Warner Brothers for like music and I think dancing and a whole bunch of things. And a lot of people were sort of multi-talented. I mean, there are talented people today, of course, but not like it. I don't think not like it was back then, where it's just like you could see someone getting a job as cop on stand, and you sort of look back at his career up until then, and it's probably pretty good. Yeah, whether it be on stage or whatever. But his trajectory from cop on stand to Poltergeist didn't just happen and start at that movie. So, you know, I've seen a lot of people in this movie that I was like, oh, like we were like, he seems familiar, that guy.
Yeah.
Where did I see him?
Yeah, there were two of them. It was his teacher.
Yeah.
And,
yes.
And Bellinger, the agent. Those two came up. I was like, oh, I know those two guys.
Yeah. And then it was that other guy who got the check from.
But yeah, no, he came in. I was like, oh, I know him from something. And I think, honestly, like if you look at the 8 movies we've seen so far, not counting Wild Eye because that's a separate thing.
Yeah.
Don't Answer the Phone's probably the only one with the, I guess, subpar acting, but that was also, a B or like a C rated movie anyways. But other than that, even if the movie was a little iffy, acting top to bottom and almost everything we've seen has been really good. Even Best Worst Dad,
Yeah. Best Worst Dad. Ooh, Best Worst Dad, Best Worst Dad 2? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I think there's just some really good actors, and, obviously all of them, we know them because they've gotten roles after, after the movies that we're watching. I mean, the talent is really, really deep.
And these are movies that pretty much no one saw. Like the biggest movies, like we said in the intro, were Xanadu and Smokey and the Bandit 2. But yet, the other movies we mentioned had, was like William Shatner. He's everybody's Shatner. Which was the Kidnapping of the President, had Hal Holbrook in it. He was great. And there was one other person in that, I can't remember. And then, I think there's a Sheen or something in The Final Countdown. So it's like, you look at these movies and the ones that were either available or not available, and there's real actors in all these. So like these disappearing movies aren't ones where it's like, it's not like now, like when you see 10 movies released and you look at it going, never heard of any of these people. This was just like the death that was August still had a bunch of stars in it. There just were less movies. I'm sure even if we watched those movies, we'd be like, wow, those performances were
absolutely
really good. We'd be just like, yeah, the movie was, it was sort of like this one. This movie is just flat. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't fault Frank or Tom Hulce. Like they gave it their all. And the acting's the only thing saving this movie.
Yeah. I mean, Tom Hulce, he went in, but Frank, I think every role he plays, like he goes in.
Yeah.
And this is no exception. I mean, he seemed like he was having, and maybe that's why we thought, oh, he seems good, because he seemed like he was having fun with the role. Mm-hmm. He seemed like he was comfortable, happy to have the role. I mean, it seemed like he was, really owning the space.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really get, I want to leave. I mean, he was just...
Yeah, like he should have almost played it a little more like another showdown. He's out on stage, he is, the god.
Yeah.
But off, it's just sort of like... But yeah, no, he seemed like, town to town, everyone. It's like, I'm having a good time.
I know. It's just... And yeah, you're an actor and you want to go out there and you want to, like, you never know who's in the audience, that kind of thing. But he still seemed, within the world, even off stage, he seemed like he was fine. I mean, other than like waiting for the call and that one scene where he's drinking in his, I don't know, dressing room or whatever.
That was like as moody as he got. But if there was more of that, like he was always isolating himself, but maybe still, keeping Schumacher under his, arm. But even then was like at the last thing he talks about Schumacher's like, you got the bug, kid. You're never going to forget this. This is the life. Yeah. So it's like he wants more, but will do this the rest of his life.
Yeah. I mean, exactly.
It's like he's content. So it's like, all right, I mean, you didn't win, but you've already won? I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I think, the stakes aren't there. It's not like, okay, what are the stakes? Oh, I could, just stay here for the rest of my life.
And he already has another job lined up.
It's like
Second Prince or something, whatever.
Yeah. I
like the titles were like whatever.
Second Prince. It's like, it's not like you're gonna hit rock bottom. It's you're still doing what you love, and you're still like head of the company.
Yeah.
You're still the star. I mean, you're showcasing yourself to a packed audience every single night in this sleepy town.
Like every night, just they're all 3,000 of them, as they said, just every night going to.
Wow, 3,000.
Because it wasn't like the good example would have been like in Soap Dish when Kevin Kline's character's doing Death of a Salesman at dinner theater in Florida.
Yeah,
and they show that, and it's just. People are eating, so it's not like he's like, I'm at the bottom of my rope, This was just him like, whatever, let's do this. And then, briefly, the music was awful.
The music just... maybe they didn't know what...
Score was well made, just not right for this movie.
Exactly. That's sort of a running sort of theme with the movies.
From top to bottom.
It's just, the music is just not... Maybe they just don't know how to...
I almost think it's... But John Williams exists. It's not like we're looking at something from the 50s. We're like, look, they don't understand scoring yet or something, but... Yeah,
I want to put it off on that, saying that maybe they just don't understand scoring yet, but you're right. That's...
John Williams exists.
It's not true. John Williams is a thing. He's a guy.
And Ennio's actually did a few of the scores. They've just been wrong.
Yeah, I just trying to... I don't know, because, when you have a meeting with a composer, it's a lot of times it's the composer going, okay, this is what I got in mind.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they have great instincts on story. And maybe that happened and they're like, nope, I want this to be triumphant here. I want this to be sentimental. And I want this when it shouldn't be,
Yeah.
Like the Tom Hulce theme, or what's his name? Shoemaker theme.
Yeah.
It was just so saccharine and sappy and from a TV movie, and it was just I don't.
It's almost like they got the score, went to the mix, which would have been harder then. I think of how easy it is now. We don't like that cue.
Yeah.
Click. They go, let's just move everything around. And they didn't tell the composer, you use that there? He's at the premiere. What the hell?
Yeah, put that in real 6.
Yeah.
Every time I'm like, music. Oh no, it's not working, and it just didn't work. And there were some scenes like you were saying that were dry, and they were like, there could be some music here.
This is the one spot you want music. No, I'm playing it for a reason. It's like, are you though?
Right. Yeah. I have no idea what the motivation of a lot of the cues were.
But it is funny though. That's been a consistent though.
Yeah.
As the consistent has been amazing acting, the opposite has been titles and music. Have not been.
Yeah. Titles and music. Yeah, both of them have just been misfires.
Carney. I could keep going back to it. Carney's the only one.
Carney.
The title works because that's what it is.
Yeah.
All right. So we pretty much answered the beginning. Would you vault this, John, or view it?
Yeah, I would vault this. I would vault it. Vault.
We'll lock it up.
Yeah. He throw it away. No, I just...
Yeah, it's not like it should be burned or destroyed or something, but I see why Xanadu and Smokey and the Bandit were the top movies of August 1980.
Yeah, I wouldn't run out to see those lips. Who knows why they...
That's the worst title. Oh my god. We're going to have a special at the end of just the titles.
I know.
But, and once again, for no sponsorship, High West.
High West.
Campfire. Once again, like Earthling, it was off the cuff more than a formatted one, because both movies...
Yeah.
Completely different, but hard to follow a follow-up review.
Absolutely. And what was up with the transfer that was...
Oh, yeah. Talk about that for a second. It was transferred at one time. I don't know if it was ever done correctly.
I don't think so.
Because the colors were... It was...
oh, right. You had to adjust
I had to adjust the colors. It was definitely interlaced at one point. It was basically what it was. It was 4th generation redub. Because it looked compressed. It looked like MPEG 1.
Yeah.
It was... I don't want to see it again. Because I got the idea of the movie, regardless. but I'd be curious of what it actually looked like.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Because I felt like, I think I said to you, I felt like, the video file looked probably really good like this, and then we blew it up to the screen and went, oh my god, it's pixelated.
Right, yeah, I'm sure it'll look a lot better, sort of condensed, but, this was
It was a terrible transfer.
terrible. I mean, I guess they couldn't go back to, we're not going to go back to the print.
I would almost wish I had it on VHS, because I'm sure it would have looked, even on my TV, would have looked so much better.
Yeah.
Just on VHS. The old formats, everyone. All right, well, thank you for watching Post Apocalyptic Show. This is Rob.
This is John.
And, I did it the wrong order. But anyways, smash buttons.
Smash them, still smash them.
Yeah, that movie confused us, the order. I had a little too much campfire. Like, subscribe, comment. I guess that's everything.
That's everything.
If you've seen this movie, tell us what you think.
Please.
Did you have a better... Did you watch it on Laserdisc? Was it better on Laserdisc?
Ooh, Laserdisc.
I'm going to find this on
The
Laserdisc.
hunt for the Laserdisc version.
Oh yeah, season 2, The Hunt for the Laserdisc. Once again, thank you for watching, and until September 1980,
Yes.
we'll be there.